Hi, everyone. This is Phyllis Y. Whitley. If you have been spiritually victimized or traumatized, welcome to Spiritology Live, where I bring my #1 Amazon bestseller book to life. Each episode will be a raw, spiritual, metaphysical, holistic space of consciousness for self-healing. As you learn how to break your religious shackles so you can master and manifest your promised land today. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Oh, wow. This is actually, I believe this is episode 20. Last week, if you haven't heard that one was short and sweet, but it was something powerful in there. It was revision. It was revised, and I gave you a taste of revision. I have to say this, my counseling service is called Self Whisper, and it's basically about changing your world by revising your whispers. And those whispers can be, we talked about that last week, it can be words that someone said to you. In my book, I talk about spells. It can be bad spells. Well, Miss Prophetess, you know, I don't want to get into that because that's all of darkness and voodoo and whatever. And people say that, but those are the same people who call it psychic every morning. Those are the same people who go in the backyard to the root workers. Those are the same people who sit back and say, I hate that person they set up there and you sit in your house and you just meditate on how you want bad things to happen to them. You understand, we are not perfect. I'm not perfect. My whole life is about mastering my spirit and disciplining my flesh from over consuming of anything and everything. That's what it's really about. When you see greed and money and debt and obesity and overly drinking and drugs, the person is feeding their flesh. It is a method to my madness. So, is it that simple? Oh, yeah. That's why you see people who have kids, especially in Hollywood, the kids are running rapidly because no one set boundaries. It's rules and boundaries, and don't turn off and say, "Oh, I don't want to." I don't, I don't need. That's why I don't go to church because I have a checklist. I have to be the perfect being. It's no such thing because it's only one perfect, and that's God. So, yes, we have been told many things that are not correct in the spiritual community. And I'm not telling you're supposed to go running rampant, but you literally have to learn how to master your spirit. You heard master your mind. That's what it is. And people go to church and they say, oh, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to listen to what the pastor said. Then they walk out of church and they wonder why. You know how I say the devil? I always say, wait a minute, the enemy is in you. They walk out the church and the devil and all his imps are standing right up there. It's an illusion. Setting up to say, come on, let's go hang out. We want to feed your flesh. So with that being said, we got to get rid of all of that stuff. It's called pruning. Think about your plants that you're growing. Think about a field and the weeds. The farmer have to take out the weeds and prune it so everything can grow. That's your whole life. So what I am going to talk about last week was the Q&A because we wanted to change those obstacles into opportunities. And that's what we're going to continue with today. I only had 2 questions that I asked you. It was so deep. And if you didn't listen to that podcast, go back and listen to it because I'm not going to stop here and tell you. Those 2 questions I asked you, it was something that you had to meditate and revise because that is the biggest obstacle is those questions. Now, once you start writing that down and you know what to do, we're going to go now. We're going to jump ahead because we need to get you rolling. We need you to be walking into your promised land. You understand what I'm saying? What is your promised land? Your heart desire without doing anybody no harm. Your heart desire may be to hurt somebody. And I'm just talking about, how you sit around and say, I don't like her. She don't deserve that husband. Stuff like that. And it can be something major. Why do you think people go out there and harm people? They sat back and they thought about it. They meditated on it. When I used to love detective shows. I like the detective comedy, but they don't have them like back in the days. I was watching Beretta, I was watching Starsky and Hutch and Kojak, Columbo. I probably should go and look at those now because it's my self care. Basically, they'll tell you when it's a crime. Usually they go in their house and they find all kind of evidence. They find like, oh, they had a plan. They planned this. And it what behooves me is the fact that criminals or people that want to harm people will plan it. But they say life is treating me bad. They don't want to plan their life. You have to plan it, your life. That's why the Bible says write it plain, write it down. You write it plain on a paper and let the angels run with it. You have to have something that you're writing everything that you're doing. Start journaling. Start writing down your tasks each day. I don't care if it's 2 tasks. Well, I got to go to work and I got to come home. And in those times we also talked about the late Miles Monroe was talking about what you do when you come home. Those hours before you go to bed is gonna really be the foundation of your life, of what you're doing. Are you leaving a legacy? How to make it plain? The legacy can be a book that goes down in history, that book that you carry through for your grandkids and going on and on. It can be a podcast that sets up there. You might be on YouTube and YouTube continue on. Someplace where you let be generating money while you're sleeping. And it's a place where it's going to make a difference for your community, which start at home, then in your area, and then even people that know you, even people who don't know you and say, well, you know what? I used to live on that same street. With that being said, we're going to hop right into it. Why do you need to know this? You need to revise some of those things that people said to you when you was young, even older. It could have been, oh my goodness. Oh, you ugly. Oh, you too fat. Oh, you too thin. You'll never be nobody. A student. It could have been somebody said, hey, A students are for smart people. You are not. You stupid. You dumb. All the things that you heard from people that really was a part of your life. Because sometimes a stranger could say anything to you and you look at them and say, you don't know me. But when it's somebody close to you, ooh, that's what my book is all about. It's all about that spiritual community. It's all about that spirit being in all kind of places to really sabotage you when you're a young person, because adulthood adulthood is literally, you know why so many adults are well, I don't know if they're sitting on the couch now. I think they're doing virtual counseling. So you know why so many adults are making psychic hotline a multi-trillion-dollar business? Do you want to know why? Because of what happened to them when they was growing up. This is why the thief of darkness go out there and they go and they prowl on kids. Because if you can mess up a child mind, they won't even go talk with adults. That's why you have to really handle your baby from day one. And mothers have to protect them. I don't understand how people just go, the man dropped the seed, keep on walking. You messed up your legacy. The woman just pull out the baby. I really don't want to raise them. I think people need to have a plan. And they need to say, some people I think just don't need to go ahead and be a parent. But thank God for those foster parents who say, hey, either I can't have kids or I'm not in a position to, as a couple, haven't, gotten married, but I want a child. I want to love a child. Thank God for them. And in some circumstances, people have the baby young and the family want to cover it and they give it up for adoption and they have been blessed. I know Les Brown just found out that it is beautiful because his mother had a situation where she put him up for adoption and he turned out great. And then he went back and looked at his ancestry trees or somebody in his family, his son or something, and realized that the mother and all of them was similar did the same work he was doing, and literally, this is what I say, you got to know your past in order to know who you are. People say, I don't want to go in the past. You better go in your past. You better know what happened. You better understand it. Because when you understand that, then you know who you are, not the lies of who you are. And then you don't even know you walking around the earth and you saying, that's why people say, I don't know who I am. I just don't know. Because they depend on what the system tell them that they are. Black American people went through something hundreds of years ago where these words that I'm talking about was in your head, was constantly thrown on you. You nothing, won't be nothing. And we don't even want to discuss what was probably said while they was walking around creating and building America. No, slave was not just there picking cotton. You know what I'm saying? I mean, really. They was there everywhere you look in America, building. They used slave for many different things. And unfortunately, no, I'm not here to say, oh, I'm going back and I'm saying this type of, white man is no this and black. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is those words were so powerful. That's normally, masters will tell you all kind of bad words so you can stay in your lane. And that went down to generations. Because if your mama, your father, your great granddaddy, they was calling your great granddaddy no good. If they was telling them your book cover is wrong, that went to generation to generation to generation. And that spell had you thinking to this day. That's the biggest obstacles. You have people come in your life and say, don't you know that you will never be nobody? You don't know you're not the smartest one in the world? And that's coming from that slavery spell that came up. And I'm talking about the community of Black Americans. And you say, well, why are you going there? The last time I look, I am beautifully made Black. Okay. So I only can tell you from my own experience. This words, spell, why do you put them together? You can't have words until you spell a complete word. You understand what I'm saying? The word, the first word is in the word, is the Bible. They say the word. God created the heaven and the earth with his words. So without teaching you a Bible lessons, sometimes I have, I do little groups and teach about the Bible and stuff. And I have one called Prophetic Boot Camp, and I can really teach you about that Bible in a way from a prophetic view that you've never seen before. Now let's go back. Why are the words that people tell you, even as a child, hurt you? It hurts you. Remember, sticks and stone will break my bones, but words will never harm me. That was a lie. So you're walking around the obstacles. How do we change it? The obstacles are those words. So I'm going to ask you some questions. If you have not listened to my podcast before, every podcast is there for a divine reason and season. Listen to each one of them, and the ones that you say, hey, wait a minute, I don't get it, keep on listening to it. It's there to do something to you spiritually. If you can master your spirit, you could discipline your flesh. Well, Miss P, how come I'm doing that? It's so you won't be walking around here crazy on this earth saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who I am. Listen, that's why I wrote the book. The book is not just about religious community destroying their people. It's about that spirit going into different industries and trying to destroy you or put a label on you. Yes, although you had a label, your great grandparents had a label on them, and it still stick with us. Yes, people still, you go to some places, they still look at your book cover and say, oh, you'll never be there. Yes, I remember sending moving and my daughter say, hey, listen, I'm going here for an interview and stuff. And they literally looked out the room and then, then come back in. You know what I'm trying to say? I remember picking up the phone and calling and say, why haven't you, this is all the skills she have and yet she can't get a job? I remember talking to the head person at this company, and he was like, I don't know, because that's the best worker we have. I don't know who interviewed her, but I'll help her. Can you go ahead and send a picture? I said, what do you have to have a picture for? And he was like, well, I know what you're going through. I said, no, sir, you don't know what I'm going through. And that's what I have experienced that. That wasn't just in slavery. I have had to this day people judge me by my book cover. And in some cases it was worse than better. But that's because that go from generation to generation. You can't be nobody because of that. You can't be. That's how powerful it is. And even other cultures had it. You got a heavy accent. You'll never be nobody. Your book cover is a little bit too dark. You never be nobody. They had all kind of stuff. You understand what I'm saying? You're not shaped right. You don't look right. Your eyes are not the right color. Your hair is not the right texture. These are things that go into your subconscious mind or spirit, if you want to call it, and it haunts you. And when you see adults, they're walking around with those words. That's why I created my business called Self Whisper. Is what you whispering to yourself that somebody else whispered to you. No one can hear it. That's why when you say, I don't believe that person across the street cracked up. How did they crack up? Why did they crack up? You know why? Because you didn't even know what was going on within themselves. When the next person go out there and killers and stuff, they literally had stuff going through their mind. You understand what I'm saying? Remember the son of Sam in New York? It had something to do with his mother. Everybody is something is being whispered to you by somebody told you. It could have been your loved ones. It could have been your religious community. That's what I'm here for. That's why I wrote the book. It's not all about just your church. It's not all about me selling it to you. It's about me trying to tell you the raw truth. Oh, I just get so tired of you going back and forth. If you don't know who you are, you better go in your back. You better go learn. You better learn your history because you have to know the lies that was told to you. How do you know? You have to know the lies. And then you could understand why you react to certain things automatically or the people around you react to things. And when you know, wait a minute, that's a lie. And then you can concentrate on the truth. No one can stop you. No one. You won't get mad if somebody look at you up and down and say you will never be. You can look at them and say, really? In your world, I'll never be nobody. But guess what? In my world, I'm already somebody. Amen? So let's go ahead with the questions. And these are quick, but you need to write it down and I need you to meditate on it. The first one is, have you read God manuscript? Or do you rely on your own spiritual leader to read it? That's deep. Basically, if you go on to church, this is for people. If you go on to church, do you just go in there on Sunday and just listen to what the pastor say and they go ahead and read and give you a Bible story and that's it? No, that's not how you're going to have a relationship with God. I teach you how to master your spirit, how to discipline your spirit in order to discipline your flesh and master your flesh. You cannot do anything on a spiritual form unless you pick up the Bible, the manuscript of God. You need to. I don't have a problem with you going to church and they pulling out certain scriptures. If you go to a church and they can't even pull out scriptures, I would run. You understand? And usually a good pastor is going to literally start telling you the scriptures that he's going to go over because he planned it. He studied it the night before. So you know, you don't want somebody to walk in your classroom and you in college and they just look at you and say, okay, we have 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and they never pull up on a book. Now it's different, you know, that has nothing to do if you're an artist or whatever, you know. In different classes, you don't need the book, but where you need the book, you better open the book. Suppose they just tell you, give you a book for 40 pages and that's it. You're like, well, where do we start? Where do we begin? You have to know the manuscript of God. You have to understand it. Where do you start at? I have classes on where to start at, but let me tell you something. Proverbs, the book of wisdom, will tell you everything you need to know. It will cover everything. And that's not when you just leave. You go start there, but you go to other things in the Bible. So basically the Old Testament and you got the New Testament. I always tell people start with the New Testament, but songs, the book of songs and the book of Proverbs is excellent. But you won't understand who wrote those books until you really go in there and yes, open up the Bible and go in the Old Testament. I do know there's religions who say, oh, well, we don't believe in the New Testament. Read the manuscript. We're not here for all of that. Because you can believe in one part, you can't believe in the other. Okay. With that being said, Know the manuscript. Know your master of your spirit, not your flesh. Because when you do that, the next question is, are you living in a war zone without instructions? The manuscript is, listen, is telling you things. It is giving you instructions. Whenever you buy a product, do you throw the manuscript in the garbage? Then you forget how to put the parts there. Is a reason that they give you a pamphlet. Do you understand? You need a pamphlet. You need a manuscript to figure out how is this body and this spirit really working. Once you have that, it says, do you know your opponent tactics? If you are military, some of my clients are military, you will not go to war, or you better not go to war without knowing about the opponent. You know, we had some wars and the president or the dictators or whatever we in other countries didn't really study that other person, that other country. Do you understand? That other continent. And they got their butt whipped. You better know that you know that you know that you know, because you studying it, because you need to know what is their weakness and where is their strength. How are you going to know about life if you don't understand the spiritual warfare that goes on in life? And then life itself. All of that is in the Bible. Do you understand? The last one is, do you know how to use your weapons of warfare? Guess what? You can know your opponent. The military have their weapons. Do you go to war and you don't have no weapons? That's why some of y'all say, oh my goodness, my obstacles are kicking my behind. This is what I'm teaching you. Last week I told you how those words go inside you and carry itself. But what happens when you start meeting people and they are the manifestation of some of the words that were said to you? So you know how you meet somebody and you said, well, that ex told me I was no good. Then the next, I met the next ex and he told me I was no good. And they have a pattern of meeting some crazy people. You have to understand what you're meeting. And are you prepared? That is what they call spiritual warfare. You have to have the weapons. You know, when you go get a box, and imagine you get a box and you order something. You order a bookcase and you go get the bookcase and the manuscript is not there. Guess who have to figure that out? Most likely you're going to call them up, say, I don't know the manuscript. And then they might not have it because it might be one of those things that you put this part here. But then if it's complex and you get a manuscript, suppose the tools and the nails and all of the stuff that you have to bring everything together is not there. So you really don't have no weapons. What are you going to do? It's a war out there. And it's a spiritual war, as well as what you see, what you can touch. Everything with your five senses have already been done in the spiritual world, the unseen world. This is what I really discuss. This is my whole concept, is what's going on in the spiritual world. When someone call you out your name, even as a young child, or tell you you will never be anybody, you can't see the words floating. Those words can't be seen, but guess what? It went inside you and it is rehearsed in your mind. Can you see what's in your mind? No, it's rehearsed and all you hear, you will never be, and it just go with you for life. How do you know? Go to somebody and you thought, why are you not a nurse? You're supposed to be a nurse. I really was going to be a nurse because somebody so. They might have self-sabotaged themselves. I didn't pass the test and I just not going to do it again. So they walking around, I'm not going to be a nurse because I didn't pass the first test. And I told myself if I don't pass the first test, then I was not supposed to be a nurse. Do you understand? People are self-sabotaging. People come to me, why is this relationship so messed up? Why is he's a narcissist? I feel when you're a narcissist, that's a whole bunch of words that went into that person's head and they just don't know how to balance those words. And so they everywhere. Their mind is everywhere. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. People are walking around now ready to blow up. And did you ever see what a woman want? I believe with Mel Gibson. Go look at that. And that literally all of a sudden he was inside the female's head and he heard them and he was just shocked at some of the things they were saying to themselves. Let me tell you something. I know they just rewrote that movie. You have to go ahead and look at that. See, you can't hear or see, you know what I'm saying? Unless some people say, well, I'm intuitive. I can see this. Like, I mean, you can feel it. And the expression of somebody's face, that's why body language. But how about if a person know how to master body language and they're not telling you the truth? You know how many interviews I went to? And I had the right body language. And inside I was saying, oh my God, are they going to really hire me? Do they realize I don't know what I'm talking about? And I got hired. So they don't see that unless they Superman. He can see or have, hearing. They can hear you. So do you understand? Let's recap. Those things you need to know. Learn the manuscript. Well, how's the Bible going to show me? It's going to show you the spiritual aspect of who you are. Then you understand where your true power comes from, because your power don't come from just your flesh, your physical side. And you got to know, you got to read it, because you have to know the instructions. It's instructions in there. Then you have to know the opponent tactics. Once you know that, because you realize you're in a war zone. The weapons. Are you prepared? Let's go back to preparation. What is all of this leading to? Preparation. You have to be prepared for everything in life. And then you have to teach your kids to prepare themselves as they grow older. That's what it's all about. Now I gave you something for you to sit back and meditate on, think about, get all of this done so you can walk in the promised land. The Israelites was not prepared. That's why they took a trip that was a couple days and it lasted, 40 years. And then they didn't even make it in, majority of them. So your promised land is the same. It's that God have given you. You got to come right. You got to come and know God gave you the promised land. So you better know what he's saying. You understand what I'm saying? What I am saying? This is how you knock out your obstacles and make it an opportunity, because the one who go to war and say, oh, I got that. I got this, got that. I know what way they're going to go. We're going to go that way. Listen, this is your life. What do they got to do with me? Honey, your life is a war. Once you come out that womb, you enter into your parents' war. That's deep. And we're going to go on. And I'm going to leave it with this. Alex Walker quote, "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. That manuscript will show you your spiritual power." Amen. Thank you for coming into my space. Now go get your promised land. Please share with all the social media platforms, because I don't know who you know. Leave a wonderful manifested review and you will be blessed, because you bless me. Don't miss the opportunity to get my book. Of course, I'm giving you dessert, but you want the whole dinner. Spiritology is on Amazon. Yes, what is new? We are working. I'm in the process, and I say we because I have those who illustrate some of my books, and we are working on 2 books. I don't want to tell you about it. My last book is Ask Jalen, about a teenage boy who literally give advice to the unique, still good, got t-shirts. And also I have some t-shirts out there that is so inspirational and encouraging. It's called Phyllis's Whispers. And it's on Amazon. It's a lot I do. But see, I do this because I am literally helping you, so you can go out there and get your platform and you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Now remember, is loving yourself is right. You don't want to be wrong.